All right, now I'm hoping everybody can hear me and see me. It looks like the others are muted, so you can click on the microphone and just let me know that you are able to hear and see me.
Okay. Hey.
Now, you don't need to keep your cameras on the whole time if you don't want. One thing I do ask is if you have a question, just take it off of mute and ask that question, because it's possible that one of the others might have that same question and it gets answered at once. So let me share my screen and be sure that everybody's able to see it, because I have a really wide monitor. It does look a little small and I want to be sure that it's okay. So
Looks good.
is everybody able to see that? No problem, or do I need to make it larger?
Looks good to me.
Okay. Now, one thing about discipline is it's a district-wide module. That means any changes that are made affects the whole district. So if I'm in the elementary and there's something that I don't like the way it's configured, if I make the change, it changes for everybody. That means it changes for the high school and the middle school. It affects everybody. So usually when we do discipline training, and we usually have most of the discipline officers there, and when we go through the configuration, it's usually agreed on what gets set and what doesn't get set. When you come up here and go through the different steps that are set up, this, like I said, affects everybody. And there's going to be some things that the high school needs that the elementary may not need. But if they go in and turn any of this off, it's going to affect, like I said, the other entities as well. This is basically what drives the software on the discipline module and what it does. So we don't need to go over everything. If you look at this and anything does not make sense to you, just let me know and I can explain it a little bit more. Like I said, this is usually done during the discipline training when you first move to the software. So if that all makes sense to everybody, we can move on. One thing I did notice when I came out here and looked, there is an option in the software that anytime a referral is submitted, it will send an automatic email to the APs or whoever the discipline officers are. It looks like the only entity is 041 that has this active. Nobody else is getting this auto email to let you know, hey, you have a student that's been referred. Plus, it looks like it's only set up for a classroom referral and nothing else. So the classroom referral is just down here and it allows the teacher.
Dave, are you supposed to be showing us the software right now?
Yeah.
Because all we see is your screen that's got icons on it. It says ESC Region 12.
You can't see y'all's database right now?
No. And it may be on the wrong part of the screen, or do you have dual monitors?
No, I just have one. Let me stop it and look at it again. What about now?
We're good now.
Okay.
It is a little bit hard to see. Is there any way you can blow it up a little bit bigger?
Yeah, let me do that. That
That's
better?
Mhm. Thank you.
Not a problem. So, like I was saying, this is what drives the software now that you can see it. If you look over it and you see anything that doesn't make sense, let me know and I can explain it a little bit more. But for the most part, like I said, any changes that are made here affects every entity since it is a district-wide setup here.
And this is probably something that I would do based on comments and needs from the APs. That way they're not having to deal with this part.
Right, and like I said, that's usually done when the
Yeah.
discipline training is done. Because you
You could-
usually have all the discipline officers there that are going through and agreeing this is what we want.
Perfect. Guys, you just let me know what you need.
Now, one thing I see here is this only allows staff marked as discipline officers to be able to be assigned an offense or action. Do you know if your discipline officers are set up as discipline officers?
As far as I know, and I haven't looked at that part of the software, everybody is able to do what they need to do. It's just a question of getting the data into the system that we need for the reports.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked that is because on the staff record,
Uh-huh.
if you come out here and edit it, this is where you say that they're a discipline officer. All it is a check mark.
I can check them while we're doing other stuff.
Okay. Because this discipline officer drives whether or not they're going to get that auto email and things of that nature.
Okay.
Now, like I was saying, under advanced features, you do have the automated email, and it's for any referral that gets submitted. It will send the discipline officer an email saying, hey, referral is submitted. This one is inactive at the 001. This is sort of what the email would look like right here.
It is my understanding, and you guys let me know if this is incorrect, that right now we're doing that via paper and email, and then you are putting this in. The teachers are not submitting a discipline referral through Skyward. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So it's all paper.
We have a Google form that they fill out and send to us.
Okay.
And the
Because-
question would be, we may want to change that, but we may not based on what we learned today.
Right.
Well, I think it's probably fair to say that unfortunately, I don't think anybody in here has actually been trained in Skyward in reference to discipline and how, and I don't think we've even had, as far as district expectations or communicated with one another, how we do it so that we can be all on the same page and it can be uniform across the district. Is that correct?
It's
Am I
one
correct?
reason I'm here.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, that would explain a lot of things that are going on then, because like I said here, even though this one is inactive right now, it's only set for a classroom referral. So
Okay.
it really needs to be set to both if you're going to start using it. What it does is anybody can submit a referral. A student can refer another student, a teacher can refer a student, a bus driver can refer a student, which is fine, because a referral is up to the discipline officer when they review the referral, whether or not to make it into an offense. Once it's been made into an offense, that's when it gets an offense number. That's when you can add any type of action to it. It will not let you add any action to a referral because it's not needed. So teachers have an option in their grade book for their students to go in there and submit a referral. It was turned on under the configuration to allow them to do this, which is down here. So they have that option to go in and submit a referral through the software, that if these auto emails were set up, it would send it to the discipline officer in that entity. I think 001, it looked like it was Tittle. But again, it is inactive. Yeah, Jeffrey A. Tittle.
And what are you saying is inactive, that the receiving any email?
Yes, it's been
Right.
turned off.
Because we've never had teachers go in and actually put the referrals in. It's always been through whatever means, whether it's a Google form or an email or sending the kid to the office. We haven't ever had teachers go in there, and I actually had a teacher do it coming from another district. And like, I had no idea that it was even sitting in there until it was a couple of days later. She verbally communicated with me in regards to the discipline of a student. And I don't know, honestly, I don't know if that's what other districts do, but sometimes that can be a Pandora's box, especially if we're allowing students even to refer other students. It seems like I chase my tail enough as it is.
Well, let me look at something out here, if you don't mind. It'll make it a little easier for y'all to understand as well. So here in the middle school, is Atkins a good teacher to use as an example? Well, we'll just go.
Example of what?
I just want to show you what they see on their side.
Okay.
So when they're in their grade book, the teachers, can y'all see the screen okay? They go in their grade book. They have all their students here, and they can see all the information they need to see in their grade book. Well, they can come up here and also add a discipline, say for Jeremiah here. And it tells her there are no discipline referrals for Jeremiah, but if she clicks on add, it starts to create that referral. Now, like I said, if the auto emails were set up, once this gets submitted, it would show up in the discipline queue where all referrals get sent to. And then the discipline officer would look at it and determine, okay, yeah, we're going to make this into an offense because it's bullying or whatever else. And you're going to have to see that student. The way this is set up right now, the teachers have this classroom referral set. If they click this, it means it stays in the classroom. The teacher is going to take care of it themselves. So if that's something that's not being allowed by you guys, I would suggest maybe turning this off completely so that the teachers do not see this and they only do the paper form. If you're going to allow them to do it, there's their teacher referral. That is the only offense they're able to select, and they'd have to put in the comments what it is.
Just
As long as it's
FYI,
class, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I like putting this in to Skyward because I think it helps everybody, but I don't want to mess up your systems that you've got in place. And so think about this as we go through it. And if it's an option that we want to implement, we'll just need to get the teachers trained on using it. And you can just work with me and let me know how you want to do that. I like everything in the same system, but that doesn't always work that way.
Well, let me suggest this. If it's something that y'all want to start using, it's maybe for the next school year, you can start using it, and maybe beforehand have another discipline overview to go through everything so everybody's on the same page through the configuration, what all it does, and everything else.
Sounds good.
So if I, and see, as long as I back out of it, it does not save this information. And we'll just get out of her grade book. But if she would have submitted that, and this was a 041, it would come down into the entry by officer. That is your cue. This is where everything comes in, whether it's a classroom referral or anything else. You could see who the discipline officers are assigned to that incident. You can see which ones are active. This is just for the current year. You can set your filters up here, especially if you have more than one discipline officer. If you only want to see yours, you can set that up. The biggest thing here is when it comes down, these are all O's. That means it is an offense. That means y'all probably entered them yourselves. So what that auto email would do, it would come in here and it would show that student. It would have an R for referral. It would send you all the email that this student has a referral, and hopefully it has enough notes from the teacher for you to look at and determine, yeah, I can just call him in the office. We'll leave it as a referral. I'll slap his fingers or whatever and move on up. Or you can make it into an offense and he's going to get a ISS or whatever, depending on what was done, and you create that offense. What happens is when you create the offense, that's when you do the actions on it. In this case, it was the ISS. You cannot have an action on a referral, so there's no way to get them mixed up. If you choose to make an action on that referral, it automatically flips it to an offense. There are no actions on a referral. Everything gets submitted here into this queue. And you can go through and verify everything that you're seeing here. A lot of times when everything like here, the in-school suspension is served, you can go out and have the ones that have been completed removed from your queue. So instead of seeing all these records, you can have them only show the ones that nothing's been done on.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
On the referral side of things, like what is that used for? And so is that just a record of a referral and that just stays right here? Or is that ran on a report and generated and also sent into TEA? Because my concern is sometimes when teachers put in a referral, in which I'm pretty descriptive of my offenses, and I don't sugarcoat anything, but the verbiage and some of those things that may come through the referral, I just don't want that somehow to be used against a teacher or go on record against a child sometimes, especially if it doesn't turn into a valid offense.
Okay. And in that aspect, referrals are not submitted to the state. They are, nobody cares about, basically. Basically, it stays internally until it's created into an offense. Once it's an offense, depending on the offense code, is whether or not it gets reported to the state. Okay. under your offense codes, these are your different offenses. Here's the ones with the state codes in there. These are the ones that will report to TEA. If it's not set to report in state code, like this local use only, not going to report. A lot of it also depends on what actions are on there. But these ones that are with the state code, that's what needs to be entered into the system. So you can see this was the teacher referral. It's the only offense code they're allowed to see because they're only entering a referral. They're not entering an actual offense itself. Now I can add a referral to a student, have it come out here to the queue, and y'all can see what it looks like and see how you can flip it from a referral to an offense, if that's something you'd like to see.
Would you guys like to see that?
Sure.
So I'm all about saving trees, you know, less paperwork, especially when you have a system in front of you that can do all this. Why
My
not
big
use it?
thing is, let's give you guys more time if we can, so that you're not having to manually put all these in.
So like Tittle was talking about, like if a teacher did do a referral and they wrote a comment in there and it was something that they might have been heated and wrote some stuff they shouldn't have, can we go back in there and edit that?
Yes,
And change it up how we want it to be said?
you can.
Okay.
Y'all are the discipline officers. Y'all have the final say. Done. Just like you can have it to where it automatically sends an email back to the referring person, in this case, a teacher. And the only information that will be on there is the action description. So you get a lot of teachers that like to hover and say, well, have you done anything to Joey? Joey's been a bad kid all week long and I'm tired of it and blah, blah, blah. Instead of them chasing you down the hallway with that, that auto email would go back and it'd say ISS. Just the description, not how many days or anything else. Because as the discipline officer, that's on you. It's not on the teacher. It's none of their business. They might have that student in their class, but y'all are the ones that are liable if anything else happens, anything else comes down. Right now, let's see, this one is for the 041. Is Kendall here today?
She's not in this meeting.
I'm sorry?
She's not in this meeting.
Okay.
She was on the list, but she did not join us.
Well, there's a upper admin thing going on right now too, while this is going on. So she's at that with the principals.
Okay. What about from the high school?
Only assistant principals are here right now.
That's me.
Okay. This one is inactive. Let me just make it active to show you how it works. Look, is Mr. Tittle, are you there today?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You should get the email sent to your email about this student that we're about to do. It'll give you an idea of what it looks like. Now, is there a good example teacher I might be able to use in the high school? Or does it matter?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
Armstrong would be a good one. She won't mind.
Okay. So from the grade book or even from the students, it depends. Teachers have multiple ways they can enter the discipline referral. So they can come in and add it in different areas. It depends on how they want to do it. And that might be something like we were saying, they might need the training as well.
What's the easiest way for them to do it?
Like I'm doing now.
Okay.
So they say they want to give Cameron here a referral.
Mhm.
They just
Great
come up here and click on the discipline. It's going to show their whole class, and then they can select the kid who they want and just hit select. You can see this kid's been in here. He's been doing some stuff. So if I do the add, this is the only offense they can accept. They can go in here and say, common area, and we're just gonna say, normally they can fill this in with as much information. That's something that once it starts being used electronically, that's what you want. Because as a discipline officer, okay, what did he do? All I see is a referral. I need more information to base my judgment on, basically. If they keep it as a classroom referral, that means they're going to handle it in the classroom and you don't have to do a thing. So once I say this, this is what the teacher still sees. Like I was saying, this code of conduct, this is the information that they entered in, but the only thing that they're able to see is this code of conduct violation, the description, nothing more. As long as this pencil is right here, they know that the discipline officer has not accepted that referral yet. It allows them to go in there and be able to edit it and everything else. Until it's accepted from the discipline officer, and I'll just leave this window open. And what happens is when you come into your queue, depending on how many you have in here, you see here's Cameron. Here's that teacher referral. You see it's an R. And if you come in here and you say, okay, well, what's it look like? Blah, blah, blah. Well, what's that? You see, it has all this information when it was submitted, everything. So you can base whether or not you're going to keep it as a referral or not off of the comments in here. So if I come in here and say, I want to, okay, I'm going to add an action, and you see that it's still set as a referral. It will tell you discipline referrals cannot have an action associated with it. It has to be an offense. So if you click yes, it will flip this from an R to an O. One of the settings is that a discipline officer has to be entered in on these. It is a required field. So now I can go in here and add an action. And these are all things as a discipline officer, you can come in here and set your defaults. So it lets you put the information here, so you, like your name, so you don't have to go back and enter it. It's up to you.
So hold on, like that page you just showed me, we could actually fill that information in so we don't have to fill that out every time we do. Oh, wow, that'd be great.
Yep.
Okay. Now going back to the referral, right, in which we're changing into the offense. Okay. So at that point, before we save an action, do we need to go in there and change the offense, or like we can actually just leave that a teacher referral?
You can leave it as a teacher referral, but then I would suggest putting enough comments in here as to why.
Absolutely.
Whether
I'd
it's
probably edit all the I would probably edit every bit of the comments and put it in my own words at that point.
Yep.
But I'm just looking at what we would change up there. Or do we have to change anything?
just remember that when you change these comments and save them, the teacher will be able to see those comments.
Even once we make it an offense, they'll be able to see the offense.
No, that's when it flips and they won't. They'll only see when an action is added to it in the action description.
if we make it a generic offense that's just our district offense, is there a way to do it that way? With something that's not reported, that's not really an offense?
You could, but you just need to think that when it's an offense, it has to have an incident number.
Okay, it'd be better to leave it as a referral, and I agree with that. I was just asking out of the box question.
The referral does not increment the incident number, only the offense does.
Could we, if we need, and this is just something that we might want to think about, when the teacher puts their information in, could you add yours to the bottom of hers instead of deleting hers? Or would that be better to delete it? And I'm asking you guys.
What part are you talking about, Makita?
We're in the comment section.
Mhm.
If teachers put stuff in and like Coach Tittle was saying, you know, sometimes that's not what I want in there. Would it be better to leave their comment in there and put his underneath it, or would it be better for him just to write over it?
That's up to y'all. I mean, the more information you have, the better there is. You can see you have a maximum of 5,000 characters. So this field will get larger as you add to it. Okay. More is better is what I always say. One thing to remember is any of these fields that you see on the screen, whether it's offense time, date, if it was on a bus, even the comments, is reportable. Not necessarily to the state, but you can run a discipline report on how many referrals were submitted this month, or how many offenses this month, how many suspension and expulsions you have. You can run reports and it will cover every one of these fields, including comments. So
just to make sure I'm not missing anything, and you guys may be in the same boat. Like as far as my training in this, when I go into this, I basically under offense, we always were told that's 21. That's what we always put. I changed the location. I changed maybe the offense date depending on when I get to it, and then the time, communication with the parent. And normally I usually, because a lot of times they are a classroom referral, whether it's through a text message, an email, or they're just sent down. I click both of those buttons, and then I put my name in the discipline officer, and then I put comments, and that is it. Like as far as even incident, did you manipulate something or change something there where it has the incident up there to the top right?
up here,
Mm-hmm. Or is that always?
it's doing that because it defaulted of this incident number 399.
Because I never even paid attention that there's an incident number.
And all it did was increment because this was the last student to get 398.
Okay.
So you can leave it at 399 and you can change this offense then from a teacher referral to controlled substance, for example.
Let me say this too. We are now supposed to be reporting bullying incidents. And so that's something I know we've got a lot of controversy on, but we've got to show some. And that's a code 61 and not a 21 on the offense side. So that may be something we need to look at addressing as well.
The only question I had with that at the beginning of the year is that one of the reasons that we put that code 21 is it's kind of a catch-all.
Right.
So as far as reporting, you know, it's hard to get in trouble if we're all doing the same thing on that. If we start putting 61 and let's say we give a kid an in-school suspension, they're missing class time. Would that 61 cover us?
Yes.
Like-
Yes.
An action is an action, whether it's ISS, OSS, or just a detention. It's all covered in the action itself.
Because
I
my issue with all the codes and explaining that 21 kind of is the, I guess, just the safest code to go with, the consistent one, is when you look at all the other ones, I mean, murder, arson, prohibited weapon, I mean, they're kind of, for for the most part, outlandish.
Well,
Most
these
of
are the
those you wouldn't
state
have.
reported ones.
But you'd probably have criminal mischief in the high school. You might even have a sex issue that is a sex offense in the high school. And here's what I'm going to say too. By not coding at least a few of those that way, when it's really what they are, it flags us and they get concerned because we haven't coded any. Does that make sense?
So occasionally we just need to have a sacrificial lamb. We just,
Well, I hate to say that,
I'm
but I mean,
jokingly, I'm saying that, but we
need to be accurate with these. And it's not going to flag us if we're accurate. And I mean, look at the situation, look at it, and evaluate it. And if it's really what it is, that's what we need to report. But if it's not, then a code 21 might be the best code for the situation.
And one thing I'm noticing too is most of your codes in here are only the ones that are lined up with the state codes.
And that was one of my questions for you.
So you can come in here and you can add a code,
Right.
say detention. And then put detention in there and use that as, you don't have to crosswalk it to any of these state codes.
So it could be an in-house one.
Absolutely.
Okay. But it would need to be crosswalked somehow to the state, would it not? Like a code 21?
Not necessarily, because the 21 is so broad.
I guess what I'm asking is, when the reporting to the state goes out, would we not need a code associated with it that's a state code?
Not as a detention, no. If
Okay.
you're handling it internally, a detention or study hall or whatever else doesn't need to be reported.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yep.
Okay, question here, like the NS, no show, eco, lunch, like I always put in 21, but we have some kids where skipped eco a couple days in a row, boom, they go to SAC for the day. So if I put NS there, is that not going to be submitted to the state then?
It
Even though
will.
that kid is placed in ISS, or it will?
The way this one is set up, it's reported under the 21 code.
And that may be something we want to adjust. And so
Right.
I need your help on knowing what those codes are that we need to change.
Because an in-school suspension is a default action set up on those, but if there's an ISS already set up in here for the state, I guess you don't have one.
Well, because those are offenses on the left. Those, we wouldn't put an ISS on the left-hand side, we put it on the right-hand side.
Right, and then it's just the offense code screen here. These are just things that have default actions set up to it. Normally, you don't have to have a default action set up. That's just a time saver that if you add the offensive CD, it will automatically add this ISS as an action, just to save some time.
Is there a way that for our district, we can manipulate that list even and push what we want up to the top?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Just get with me, and we could even sit down and talk about it as a group if we want to, or put your list together and I'll share it with everybody, however we want to do it. But this is something that's yours, and we do have to have it correct for the state, but I also want it to work for what you need it to do. And if we have it itemized, we can pull all kinds of data reports instead of doing anything that's manual. There's no reason why we need to be in a manual situation anymore.
But something to remember too is if something gets entered here at the high school as an offense code, they'll see it at the elementary as well. Doesn't mean they have to use it. You just got to let them know, hey, some of these codes you're going to see, because I've seen it too many times where the discipline officer at elementary says, oh, we don't need all this. And they go in there and start removing them. Well, it deletes them out of the system.
Hey, the state code 50 used, exhibited, or possessed a, what's that?
I think someone didn't finish that one because it doesn't have a state code attached to it.
Or I may not have known what it was because I came in and attached these for this civil rights reporting, and they may not be correct. And that's something I need help with.
I mean, these are, a lot of them are based off of what the state has given it. That's the easiest way to do it. But
And I
like
went and
said,
looked at the state coding and matched it up with ours best I could. I think 50 may no longer be a valid one.
which one?
Code 50 may no longer be a valid state code or used at the state level.
It's
I mean,
not.
like some of, yeah,
When you edit it, and you can see all the state codes right here.
yeah. It's
So
not,
50's not in there.
which is why it doesn't have a state code attached to it.
Correct. So like I said, you can go in there and create your own offense codes,
And
such
if
as
it's,
detention or study hall or anything else, that's fine. You don't, it's not required to crosswalk to the state.
and it also could crosswalk to the state, but it be your words over here on the long description. So we could add a description that fits your needs and crosswalk it to a state code that it belongs to, if that's something we need to do.
You don't have to do it on every single one of them,
Correct.
but these here, I would be sure that they are crosswalk to the number. It's always easier to keep it at the number that it's at. Anything other than that, you just leave it blank.
Okay. Good advice.
Again, you still have these state offense codes here, but then you have the different groups. So even though it's a code of 5, is it drug related? Is it weapon related, injury, threat? Those can be checked as well, because then you can group the different offenses together. You don't have to, it's not required. It would just make it a little bit easier when you go to report it.
That would be helpful from my perspective.
Correct. When you're submitting PINs,
Mhm.
submission 3 looks at those disciplines. If you don't have any records out there, they're gonna, TA is gonna say that can't be.
And that's my concern. I don't want them to come check us out because we didn't do something we should have done.
Now, back to the student camera in here. You can go in here and add the action now that it's an offense, and it gives it offense number 399. You could go through those steps of doing the actions. If not, all I have to do is hit back. It's still there as a referral, but if you don't want to keep it in there anymore, I could say delete offense. By deleting it here, and it also removes it from the teacher's grade book. Like I said, y'all have the full power here to control what happens. Something else that is available here is your action detail update.
Make sure that at this time your third period attendance has been.
If you don't want to see all these ones that have already been served, you can go in there and mark them as served. Once they're marked as served, they remove them from your queue. Okay. What that means is that removes them from the entry by officer queue once it's been marked as served, but it doesn't take them out of the system in any way, because you still have the entry by student and entry by incident number. Those will always be there. So it's just, you don't want to see, you see there's over 100 incidents already in here. You don't have to skip through them, look for certain ones. Well, if you know it's on Cameron, you can go directly to Cameron and pull him up by his name, and it's going to show you all his discipline. See, he doesn't have any of this one. So it's very simple to use the system to go back in there and find this information. You just have to know what's there and know what to look for. You have your different reports as well. You can go out there and do it by detail. That's going to be the longest report because it's going to show you everything. You can do it
I'm sorry,
just.
can you go back? Can you go back to the student one? Because it didn't pull up all of that students. It actually had a list of different students there.
This here?
Yeah, that's not all Cameron's.
No, this is all students.
Oh, okay.
And you can say only active, and it's only showing the first 20.
Okay, I understand now.
So you can bump this up to 100 and it'll show the first 100. So if you have their last name, the easiest thing is just look it up. And say it was Chevelle. Okay. You can see all the information here. Does that make sense? And that's by entry by student, and you can do it by offense as well. So we know the 399 hasn't been used yet. So if you do entry by incident number, there's Cameron. There's one of his incident numbers right there is a 7. But if you want to see 399, you can type it in here. And you see it hasn't been used yet since we didn't save it. So you can pull it up by incident number. You can pull it up by student name. Something else, if there's multiple students involved, such as a fight, you have 3 or 4 kids involved, you can give them the same incident number for both of those kids. I believe y'all had that set that way. Yeah, same offense code for a single incident. So what that allows you to do is instead of, if you had 5 kids in a fight, you don't have to create 5 incidents. You can create 1 incident and link all 5 to it. So when you set up those offenses and you're going in there and adding them to the kids, you can come in here and say, okay, it was on John here. You can add it to him just by up here. And if it's a 399, you see it's already jumped to 400. You can go in here and say it's an existing incident, 399. And that way you can do all 5 students at one time, fast and easy.
Can I say, can you go back to that screen for just a second?
What would you like? I'm sorry.
Can you go back to that screen for just a second?
Which screen was that?
The one where you had the offenses and everything on it. I mean, just the one you were just at, just before this, the edit screen.
The entry by incident?
Let's try it and see.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Makita. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just wanting you to go back to that window you just had open, that where it had the place to put the disciplinary information in it. No, not just the student on the student.
It was where we were able to look at the incident number, I believe.
Yeah,
The
incident
one where
number.
you changed the
offense was
400 to
there.
399.
Gotcha. Either place, incident number or by the student, you can come in here.
Okay, open up one of the students there. Go in and edit.
So you can see Colin here, it shows all
Yeah,
their information.
Go ahead, click the edit button.
On which one?
That'll work. Okay, one of the things I wanted to point out on the screen, and it may be that there was only one person doing it, and it was Shine, and she'll be the one to tell you. But where you see that it says offense, she was clicking that little box, not the offense itself. And so she didn't get all the codes. And in case you don't see all these codes, that's where you go to find them.
If you do the drop down, it's only going to show like the first 10 or 15. If
Right.
you click on the offense itself, it's going to show all 50 of them.
Right. And I just want to make sure everybody knew about that since she was not familiar with it. Thanks for doing that for me.
Okay.
Okay, so so question. So if we're trying to tie, let's say 3 people to one offense. So we create one for one individual, correct? And then
Correct.
we see what the incident number is. And then as we go, we just go to discipline for another student, add, and then in the incident, we just put that same number in.
And
Is
it
it
automatically pulls your offense code and everything else in there for
comments, everything?
everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really want to make your job easier.
Yeah. I mean, you're able to, just knowing about it is the hardest thing. Something that I always recommend when going through the trainings, if say you're on this edit offense screen and you're not sure what a field does or anything else, you can come up to the question mark and go to SkyDoc documentation. It will pull up a tutorial entry by student. Some of these are quite old, as you see, from 2012, but it will take you through the steps of adding an incident and everything to look for. It will explain it a little bit more. So it's just a memory jog, basically, is what I call it. If you're not 100% sure, SkyDoc's out there on every screen. It just depends on where you click on the question mark, what it's going to pull up. So since it's here on edit offense, that's what it pulls up. But if I come up here and click on it now, it's going to look at incident, entry by incident, and pull that tutorial up. So depending on what screen you click on SkyDoc, that's the information it tries to pull up. That always helps as well, especially if you're not 100% sure. It's something to fall back on. What you see from this one incident here, it also lets you add any victims in, any witnesses, any type of attachments that you might have that you can add to this offense as well. Biggest thing is just knowing about your cue. Mr. Tittle, did you get that email?
I have not, or I don't see anything from Skyward except for new time off request approval.
Okay. So that's unrecorded class attendance. Yeah, I didn't. That's why. It was set to only classroom referral. Let's do another one. I just want to be sure that the email feature is working correctly. We'll pick on Cameron again. So that right there should have been enough.
Yep.
To send it. Did you get it?
Something dinged.
Okay, for some reason it was unsent.
Yeah. It should come in as a Skyward mail, correct?
Yes,
Yeah, no, it didn't come in.
and it would say this right here, discipline referral has been assigned to Cameron Thomas Andrews. So why is it unsent? Oh, that's something I can look at it later to see why that's not working.
Okay.
But that might be why I got turned off. A lot of times these things become corrupt when they've been out there too long. It all depends. I would like to get it working, but like I said, I can get that on the side. Doesn't need to be done now.
Thank you.
So does the discipline make a little bit better sense for you guys? I mean, is there any questions you have directly from me that you're not sure about?
I have a question, and that is on the, oh gosh, what is the term? Not the offense, but the action itself. I sent you a copy of the things that were airing out on and the warnings that were being flagged on that civil rights. Is that where we'd go in and report some of those items?
Are you talking from the CRDC that you showed me?
Yes, uh-huh.
Yeah, that's going to be pulling from these offenses. And I looked at some of those areas that you had, and it looks like it's saying that with so many kids in the district, you should have at least blah, 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 so many, and it's not seeing it. It's because this code of conduct is out there everywhere.
Okay, so what I need to probably ask is you guys to go back to last year, since the civil rights is last year, and help flag some or change those codes to some that might be appropriate for those actions, so that we're not quite so flagged. And then this year especially, let's look at that so that the PEMS for the summer that's coming up is done correctly. Because I know that they're going to be looking at that more in depth than they have before, just because the data is there. And so they expect to be able to see it.
Okay, I got two things. One, I did get the email. It did come through.
Yay.
Stating that a discipline referral has come in for Cameron. Two, Marquita, I think that's a great idea, but I think it needs to be something that we could do as a work day, maybe, where the district provides all the APs lunch maybe that day as we're
Okay.
going in and adjusting maybe last year's and working on this year's.
I will see what I can do to make that happen.
I
Yes,
think
I
it helps,
will.
'cause I look at it like, yeah, good, it's just sent, good. What I know, y'all aren't usually just sitting at your desk all day. I mean, you
Right.
probably have it linked up to your phone or whatever, so as you're walking down the hallway, it beeps, you can look and get back to it when you go back to your office, and all you have to do is come out to the offense or entry by officer screen. And it'll show it, well, I just deleted it, so it won't show it anymore. But then you would see that it was a referral, and then you can go do and handle it when you have time. That email is just letting you know one's been submitted, nothing more.
Anybody have any questions or comments so far?
Compared to the other campuses, I'm at the primary school and we don't get too many office referrals at the primary school. We get a few, but not too many. I'm not sure if the teachers would need to be trained or how many know how to use this or not, or how to put one in. So we could either probably get them trained, or would it be best to have them just continue to fill it out in the Google form and then I go in and fill out the referral? Or do they need to be the one to actually go in and do the referral? And then I just take care of it and change it to the offense when it's time, when I look at it.
That's something that's up to the district, how y'all want to do it. It's not required by the state that the teacher who referred the student is on any type of information. State doesn't care. What they care about is this offense code and the action that was given for the student. So if it was an OSS, they want to know how many days. If it's an ISS, they want to know how many days. And that's a lot of it is found here in the actions. So this one here, for example, if it's sent as a 21, the system doesn't know about it. The state doesn't care about it. This also for a half day, that's something I can go over with Marquita, but this TEA doesn't care about a half day. They only want whole numbers. So it would still consider this as one day. Main thing is that it gets submitted in there correctly. It's looking at this disciplinary action number of a 38, and it's looking to see what it's crossed to. If for any reason on the action detail, let me pull this up. Say that you gave them 5 days, but they only served 4 days. You see that the length and the time are both required fields because they have the asterisks. Well, that's fine. You can put in the comments, Johnny was good all week long, so I gave him a break and he didn't have to go the last day, which is fine. You can do that. The only thing it needs is a difference reason. The difference reason is basically saying you modified whatever because the student was good and that it's not a typo. As long as it's the length and the time served don't match up, it has to have a difference reason. If not, it will give an error when the state submission is done for PEEMS.
So I just logged into Skyward and looked under the entry by officers, and we have none in there for this year. And then I looked at other previous years, and the other ones we have are all from 2017, 18, and we have one in there from 2000 and or from 2020, I believe. So we don't have. Yeah, the last one that we have in here was from February 18th of 2020. So, because everything we do is, like I said, is on Google Forms, and then me and Miss Ray go in and we have a spreadsheet that we put everything in that says the incident, how many days we gave them ISS or whatever the offense we gave them was, or the discipline. So since we have nothing in there for this year, I would have to go in and do anything, correct?
You would need to add any offenses. I guess I'm confused because you're saying that the offenses are recorded on the spreadsheet, but those also need to be recorded in Skyward.
So I would need to go back in, and everything we have this year, I would need to go and add those into
Yes.
Skyward.
this is our database. This is the place that is legally where we house the information. And so if it's not here, then it's like we don't have anything, and that starts raising flags.
Okay.
And also, like I said, everything is reportable. So you have reports out here. You can run to see how many number of occurrences for certain offenses have done. And I know they use this in these larger districts for if you see an area, a location in the school that a lot of incidents are happening, then you can always have somebody patrol that area or whatever. You can do it on just the referrals. You can do it on the ISS, OSS, discipline counts. You can do it on each student and how many disciplines they have. There are a lot of reports in here that you can use that will report all that information that you're entering. So it's not like you're entering in here and it just sits there and doesn't get used. It get used.
Can you go ahead and pull up like a report? Because there's times they want to know like how many ISS, how much out of school, what, like how, where would you pull that up at?
Let's go back. I don't see it happening here at the primary, but at the high school, you can come in here and say, okay, I want to see number of occurrences. You're going to have to set up a template in here because if it's not yours, you're not going to be able to make any changes.
Okay.
So you just click add and you call this OSS, for example.
And I'm glad to help you do this if you need help with it.
Can we do ISS?
Sure. Well, and this all depends on when you come down here and you're looking at it as an offense and referral. Of course, it's only going to be an offense. Classroom referral, you don't need, but here it says select all offenses. You just want to go in here and look for the ones that are ISS. And I don't think you had one just for ISS, did you?
No.
We need to set that up.
That can be set up.
But in doing that, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way. In doing that, you're never going to have any other code but for all those ISS, right?
Well, for example, if you add ISS, it's still crosswalk to the state, so you're going to be using it. Does that make sense?
Mm,
Oh, it's so cool. Oh my God.
Oh,
Snook,
I don't know. My
What-
phone just exploded. I
what's
don't know what
going
happened.
on, man?
I have no idea.
okay.
That's
That's
not
a-
even a notification either.
That's a referral right there, buddy.
Offense, it hurt my ears. So you can come up here and, like I said, just add one and call it ISS
Let's go ahead, yeah.
and just enter everything in here. The
Go
description. that
ahead and do it.
You want me to go ahead and do it?
Yeah, go ahead and do it. While we're here, we might as well get it in there.
I appreciate it.
Okay. So you can have it as a default action, which means that, well, if it's an ISS, you know he's going to get ISS, right? But is it a partial day or a whole day? I see this is in here twice. Part day and partial day. So you might, that's something you
Well,
might.
one's OSS and one's ISS.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you're right. So you can say 26 is the default.
I'm sorry. I appreciate your help, but can we do 06 for just a full day?
So anytime you use the ISS code, it will automatically add this action. Okay. Is it crosswalk to the state for ISS?
See, and that's where I would be. It's 21. It's always 21.
But 21
Yeah,
is too open. it's too broad. I mean, there's really not one for ISS in here, depending on what was done. Was it an assault on an employee? Was it a terrorist threat? Something to that effect, which of course wouldn't be an ISS, it'd probably be OSS.
Mhm.
So let's just say you don't need to report it to the state. Done. And you hit save. Now that's in there as ISS. So if you go back to your queue, and we'll just pick the first one in the queue.
I just got a quick question. Why would we have an ISS that's not reported to the state? Because aren't all of those ISSs and OSSs needed for PEMS?
It depends on actually if it's DAEP considered. I mean, do y'all have your own entity where these kids are sent to, or is it just done in the building itself?
Well, it's in the building, but if you're removing them from the classroom setting, that's supposed to go to PEMS. And so
Right.
and on our campus, that's the only thing I put in Skyward is if it's going to be a removal from classroom setting. So if they go to ISS or OSS, I mean, that's the only thing I'm putting in right now. And so it's all 21, unless it is a DAP placement. Like we did have a felony committed off campus that put a kid in DAP. So that's my only not 21. But why would we have an ISS that's not reported? Like, don't we have to report those?
You would need to, yes, but I don't consider the code of conduct. That's, like I said, it's just too broad. There's going to be something else in there that'd be more specific for why the ISS is. If not, use the 21. But the state, like Marquita was saying, is already complaining by the CRDC that everything can't be a 21.
Mhm.
Can't. They need something else besides the 21. So right here for John Wayne here, if we say add offense to the current student, it's going to pull that information up. And I can just type in here ISS, hit tab, and it's going to pull that information. So it's available to use out there now. If we go out to the code again, like I said, you can set up any codes that you want. It's just the ones that actually get reported to the state are the ones that you really need to be sure that are being created that way.
So I know we want to be more descriptive about like why we're sending the kid to ISS and we need more than, code 21. But I mean, a lot of ours, if you go down at the very bottom, you have where they skipped an eco or skipping class or, a kid using inappropriate language. I had a kid drop an F-bomb this morning. It's in SAC for the day. I mean, where else would you put that in which we can, I don't see anywhere else that you would put those type of things. So I'm just confused as to what the state, sounds like the state needs to get more descriptive in their codes. Because we're very limited. I know there's 50 of them, but when you look at the 50 of them, there's a lot of them that like we would never use.
Right. And when they moved all these codes, I was like, what are they doing? Before it was only like 6 or 7 codes that were state codes. Everything else was local. But like for this ISS, you could use permanent removal, for example. It would all depend on, I guess, y'all's handbook of what it would be set as. I'm not sure. Or what the state, that might be something that the state would have to say, okay, well, what do you do an ISS for? It is reported to the state, but what? There's not a state code for ISS.
That's something I can research.
Yeah, that might be something that TA would have to answer. Or the service center would have to answer. I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Let me follow up on that one.
That would be a good one because, I mean, something's got to be done that where y'all don't just use as 21 because the state's complaining already. If they're doing that on the CRDC, then you can bet when the sub 3 comes around with the PEEMs,
Yes.
it's gonna just air out left and right.
That's what scares me.
Yeah. Well, you do have one code in here and everybody can see it, whether they're at the high school or the elementary, it can still be used.
Okay.
Any other questions that you might want to ask me?
Just one thing here. So like for us at the primary, ISS is pretty much the big discipline we have. Like we don't really do OS, none of that stuff we do at the primary. So like, let's say a teacher sent a kid or did a referral and it was like disturbing the class. And, you know, we did them where they walked recess and had lunch detention. Is that something that needs to be put in here or just pretty much the ISS or everything? And we just put what we did.
Right, that's part of the action codes.
Okay. So everything that no matter what, if we get an office referral for no matter what, and no matter what we do to the student, it needs to go in Skyward with the code and an action. Okay.
Correct.
Marquita, if I do one from this year, can I email you and have you look over it and see if I did it correct or anything, and you just let me know?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll try to start putting some in as soon as I can.
And I'll work on getting us a PD day because I think this is real important.
Okay.
And this is something else too. Here's the in-school suspension is an 06.
Mhm.
It's on the action code. And it says here, the 06 for the state code. So it doesn't always just depend on what offense code is being used. So a lot of those might be able to stay as a 21 as long as the action has the 06 on there.
And that's what I was seeing when I looked at it.
Yep, and that's what PEEMS looks at as well. That whatever, if it's state reported offense, it should have a state reported action.
They do. Can you scroll on the action codes? Because really, when I go in here, it's either ISS, DAP, partial day ISS. Rarely do we out of school, but we do. So even if I have a kid that gets an eco, you know, in which we do all these things on Google Forms, and I have a teacher that does all the ecos, and it's all documented. I mean, there's a lot of them. And we're saying we need to put these in Skyward. I have lunch detentions where, I mean, I may have, you know, 5, 6, 7 kids in a lunch detention on a given day. I'm just going out there and saying, I don't see myself putting all these ecos and lunch detentions in Skyward.
You don't necessarily have to, as long as it's not being reported or as a code for the state doesn't care. It's
Yeah,
only for your benefit though, because you remember anything you put into Skyward under discipline, you can run a report on.
And also it's right here if we ever need to go back and review the data. Whereas on a Google form with people changing as far as APs and that type of information, that's not as easy to keep track of.
Correct.
I think what Jeff's saying, and I agree with him, it would, I mean, that's all we would do all day.
Yeah.
Is because I'm just thinking of the three grade levels I have. The teachers are allowed to put in lunch detentions, you know, and our after school detentions. And of course I can give a lunch detention or after school detention too, but those aren't state reporting things. And so if I put all those in, I mean, that's literally all I would do all day.
Let's talk about that then, and let me do some more questioning and finding more information, because I do not want to make you guys have to work harder. I'm trying to find ways that we can work maybe smarter and get the data that we need and have it so that you guys are not having to go manually put everything in that you've got in another form somewhere where we're doing duplicate entries.
Well, I think that's the question. What report do you need that would have that information from a kid getting a lunch detention? What would be a report?
Let me do some research, and Tom, Dave, you may have.
Discipline detail, we'll look at that. You have some that you can even do workflows on there. Student action details, that looks only at the actions that were given, not the offense. So if the offense was a 21 and then the action was a lunch detention, you could run a report just on those lunch detentions.
And here's the other thing, if we have the teachers putting in the referrals, even in the younger grades, you can then go in and easily add those actions to that student.
Yep. Something else too is
they're not putting it in the Google form, they're putting it in Skyward instead. So that's something we need to talk about.
just like here when you're in your officer queue. Right now we're on John here. If you come over here and look at suspension and expulsions, he doesn't have any. If he does, there'd be an asterisk next to it, like this kid. So it's an easy way to go in there and take a look at it just by glancing over to the right. This kid does. This kid doesn't. And when you click on the button, it's going to show you all of them. So that's just another way to go in and look at it as well.
Okay.
So like if a teacher did assign, because sometimes we don't, like if a teacher assigned a student to walk during recess, we don't know about that sometimes because that was teacher handled that themselves. Would that be where they still now need to go into Skyward and put that in as a teacher handled it themselves form, or because I don't,
well, that's what the classroom referral would be.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not sure how many, we have a lot of new teachers, like this is their first year here, and I don't even know how many teachers on our campus actually would know how to put it in. So
again, we're not going to be overly specific about trying to get them to do this year.
Yeah.
As much as we would be trying to set it up for next year, because I don't want to kill the system that's in place. I want to make the system better, and it's not going to be better if we've got chaos abounding with our teachers right now.
Yeah, I think it would be best to start it at a fresh year.
Right.
And going back to that, when we look at, and I think that's kind of like we just got the answer there, or at least I heard the answer. Those are even in the referral process, when they click classroom referral, that's them. They're taking care of it, and it's out. So as far as our system of lunch detentions and ecos and stuff, with the teacher assigning those things and processing it, they're handling it. They're taking you know what I mean? It's being taken care of, where we can run a report through the Google form and we can see exactly how many lunch detentions this kid got, or how many, all those things, but it's not necessarily anything we have to put in Skyward, because the teacher is the one that's assigning that disciplinary action, and they're handling it themselves through assigning a lunch detention or eco. That's what I heard.
But right now, the way it's set up, if you're going to allow that, the only offense that the teacher can see is that teacher referral. You can set it up to where they only see certain referrals. So if you don't want to be able to allow them to handle it in the classroom, like lunch detention or whatever, that's fine, because when they submit it as a referral, it will still come to your queue. Instead of showing an O, it'll show an R, like we showed with Cameron. But here, under the offense description, it'll say classroom referral. So you ignore it. It will still show here. You can also set up a filter that you don't want to see it. And then you can run a report from the system here to see how many classroom referrals were sent. It's still an electronic copy of it out there. If you don't want to see it, you can come out here and say, I don't want to see any referrals. I only want to see offenses that are assigned to me. Done. All it is a filter to the screen. And you can change the filter of what you actually see. So if you're going to allow the teacher to do it, you're going to have to allow them to select that lunchroom detention or after school detention and not just teacher referral, because then it's just going to sit here.
Okay. We can look at that. Thank you.
It's simple to do. If you need more help with it, I can go through the steps again so you see how it is. But
Okay.
like I said, it's not set in stone until it's changed to an offense. As long as it's a referral, you can delete it out of there anytime.
Okay.
You can't delete this offense right here off the student because it has an action.
Mhm.
Once an action's on there, it's not going to let you delete it unless you remove all the actions to it first before you can delete that offense. So there are checks and balances in there to keep things from happening. The teacher referral, I see it used in a lot of different districts where they have certain codes that they can use. Main thing is here in the description, it says teacher referral. And most discipline officers don't care about it, so they either don't look at it or set up a filter so they don't see it. That's simple. If you don't want to see all these that are already served, come down here to the action detail update and start marking them as served, and it will remove them from your queue.
Okay, I got a question there because those ones that are open, that's obviously something I need to go in there and make an adjustment, because I know that that one particular kid withdrew. So I need to go in there and manipulate that, why it's not what it is. So where is that at?
It's here under office, discipline,
Uh-huh.
action detail update.
Okay. Because sometimes in doing these, occasionally you miss one where, you know, you don't have it set as served, and now all of a sudden it comes up as a fatal because it's open or whatever. Now, I unless you go back through and check every single one of them, I didn't realize you could.
A lot of discipline officers don't know about this.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not required, because even though it doesn't say served here, it does on the action. And that's what the state looks at, is that action. This is just if you want your queue to look a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
If you're running any kind of reports, it's just an action detail update to say that it's been served. I could come over here and say, I know all these have been served up until yesterday. So I can say mark all open as served. Oof. Does them all at once. One thing to remember, this history buttons here, you can always go in there and look for different ones. It will always pull it up, even though it doesn't show here. Filter options, you can change it up here if you don't want to see them. So you can say, I don't want to see any served ones. And they're gone. You don't see them. But it's only a screen filter. They're still there.
Mm-hmm.
You're not deleting them from the system.
So if, for instance, I actually accidentally have one open without having to go in, I don't have to go in and do an edit or anything. I can come here, click serve, and done. Which on this kid, I'll probably have to go in and I have to look at these, because I think there's a certain stipulation probably that's occurred, or they were released a little early or something maybe, and I just need to adjust it.
You can always expand on them and it'll show the status. If I change it back to open, it changes it here as well.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't have to hit save. As soon as you change it here, you can see the status change here. Any other questions for me?
I do have one because, you know, a lot of times we put in an action where a kid's going to serve 3 days a sack or whatever, and then the kid happens to be maybe absent or whatever. And so now all of a sudden there's an inconsistency with attendance and where that kid's placed. And I just actually used one of our snow days to go in and adjust all that. How important is that for those to actually align with the actual attendance of the student?
The state is very big on that it matches up. That's
Okay.
why I was saying on the action itself, if the time served and the time issued do not match, it's going to throw an error in Teams. So the total time and the time served have to match. If they don't, you have to have a difference. And if-
But I'm talking about the actual like date, the actual day the kid's in ISS versus what his attendance indicates. Does that make sense?
It does. I mean, you can come in here if there's multiple days, it'll show them all here.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I did. I went in and I edited and I changed the date on some of them to match what the attendance is. So I kind of figured out a way to manipulate it. I was just sometimes, like you said, we're running around. We got a lot going on. And so when someone throws a couple of reports in front of us and going, hey, we need this, we need that, I look at it and go, okay, how important is this? Is this just fun time in Skyward for me for about 3 or 4 hours that I could be doing something else? Or is like, does it have to be the exact dates and all that?
They need to match up the times. It doesn't need to be the actual dates. When you come in here, say this student had 2 days and on the second, they didn't actually serve it. When you edit it and say what day they served, it automatically takes that into consideration and as the 2 days. This total time and time served, these have to match. Because if they don't, that's when you're going to get the Teams error during submission 3, unless there's that difference reason in here as to why.
Yes, sir.
This one, just saying that it's the actual time, it's not going to cut it. They're looking for a reason why it wasn't. Student was incarcerated or term modified or whatever. It needs to be something else besides the 000. You don't even need it in there because this matches the time served, and that's all the system looks at.
Okay, so if I'm not adjusting the time, like, and usually that comes in as an edit as we, you know, do a review at 30 days for a kid that's been assigned 45 days of DAP or something like that. I don't even have to put the 0 in there for, okay.
That's only for reporting purposes if it's the same, but most of the time you don't care if it's the same because you want the ones that aren't the same, and that is the reason that you need it.
Okay. I'm just trying to streamline my input, and that's one of those where I always told I got to click over there and put 0 without
It's
even.
up to you. It can be blank.
Okay.
Because they match up. Like I said, the system looks at total time and time served.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
I know this has been very helpful for me. And I know not to your fault at all, Marquita, at all. Like we seriously have not, or I have not had any training in Skyward, just told this is kind of what we do. And, you know, all the shortcuts and everything that you talked to me about today. I had no idea any of that stuff existed or even where to look for it.
That's
So,
why I wanted to
I
bring it in.
appreciate
I
it.
saw that consistently across with everybody. And so Dave's the expert, not me.
So like I said, if there's something you're not sure about, whether it's the screen on another screen, depending on what screen you're on, come up here and click on your SkyDoc. This one, since it's such a different areas you can go to, you can click on it directly.
Skyward can be cumbersome, but at the same time, I think we can make this work more efficiently for all of us.
Correct. It's just knowing what you have available. And if you guys didn't really get any type of training on it, it's obvious you're not going to know what's all out there and available.
Right.
Something I would do is with the automated emails, is at least get those set up. The only thing you don't have to do is you don't have to create it at every entity. See how they can use this demographic changes, like an address change. It's used for all entities.
Mhm.
So with this discipline referral, if you edit it, you can add the other entities in here as well.
Okay.
So it just allows you to keep it one for all, basically is what it's doing.
I will probably have a few more questions as I go, but this has helped me tremendously as well.
So all you have to do, Marquita, you don't have to do each one. Just click on the entities button here and say, well, I want the referral to go out for all my entities. That's
Perfect.
if all the discipline officers agree that they want that email.
Okay.
I would say that's probably something that we meet again. And then if we decide to do that, roll out next year.
Well, my plan right now is to set up a time that we can do that, and I'll talk to Cody about it and make sure everybody's in agreement, and then get that out to you, because I need to get this stuff updated pretty quickly for that civil rights submission. So,
Yeah, and like I said, if any type of training is needed, just let us know. We can do an overview, just like we're training on day one, and go through all the steps. It's 4-hour class, but it goes from point A to point Z. Goes over absolutely everything. What I did was kind of jump around a little bit for what you're already using. But if that's needed, let us know.
okay. Thank you, Dave.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
Well, I hope y'all got something out of it. Like I said, SkyDoc is there to help you. We're here to help you as well.
Okay.
So let me know. Marquita can shoot me an email and I can shoot one right back if I'm in office.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Y'all
you
have a
guys
great
for
day.
joining in.
Y'all have a great day.
All right, y'all too.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Hey, Dave,
Yes.
share that recording with me when you get it, if you would, please.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
The recording, when you get it, would you please share it with me?
Yeah, it might be this afternoon before it finally.
It's fine. I understand that. One of our APs couldn't stay in the meeting, and so she definitely needs to see this
Yes.
as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.